Good afternoon. We appreciate you joining us today for Webinar Wednesday. Today, four of TLC's librarians are here to share their love of libraries and how they contribute to build community with every TLC customer. With us is Ebony Pacheco-Hoos, Rhea Stark, Rhiannon Williams, and Jenna Thorne. Before we start, I'll mention a few housekeeping things. First, we are recording, so if you want to share this with your colleagues or watch it again, the recording will be available on our website starting tomorrow. But since you're joining us live, you have the opportunity to ask questions. Feel free to chat with us. You can even answer some of the questions we'll be asking our fantastic panelists. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this special Webinar Wednesday. I'll start with Ebony. Ebony, would you like to introduce yourself today?
Remember to unmute. My name is Ebony Pacheco-Hoos. I am the Director of Product Management for our public libraries at TLC, and I have worked here for, I think, almost 18 years.
And Rhea?
Yeah, thanks, Ash. I'm Rhea Stark. I'm the Director of Marketing, and I've been with TLC for 9 years.
Rhiannon?
Hey everyone, Rhiannon Williams, and I'm on the product management team and with a focus in cataloging. And I've been with TLC now for 2 years.
And Jenna?
I am Jenna Thorne. I'm a product manager here at TLC, focusing on circulation and staff services, and I've been with TLC for 2 years as well.
And my name is Ashley Chassé. I've been with TLC for just over 3 years now, and I'm an account marketing manager. So TLC loves libraries, and we know you love libraries. The five of us here today are all librarians with experience working in everywhere from academic to public and school libraries. And we're going to have just a nice panel discussion. So here's our first question. So panelists and attendees, our lovely guests, if you want to write down in the chat, why do you love libraries? I'm going to start with Ebony.
All right. So there are many reasons I love libraries. I grew up in and around libraries overall, but I love this, like, in addition to just what is there, right? I love books, the smell of books, the stickers on books, everything that's around the material within libraries. I love library shelves, but just the buildings, so collections and material in libraries, but just being in there and being amongst the shelves and the library furniture. And I've been at many libraries throughout kind of the world. And there's always this same feeling of this is where I belong, right? I walk into a library and it is the same feeling. It is where I'm going. I can find a place to read. I can sit, people watch. I can just do all of that within that library. And it just brings such a feeling of, I don't know, wonder. And that has always been kind of in my heart since I was a little kid. So that's just a little reason of why I love libraries.
I love that, wonder. That's a great word to describe libraries. Rhiannon.
Yeah, one of the reasons I love libraries so much is how in every community, it seems to be like the heart of this community, where it's a place where no matter who you are and how you relate to the other people in your community, you can feel welcome and seen by, friendly staff, and you can find things that you're really needing. And no matter where you are in your life or in anything that's going on, the library has something for you, which is such an amazing feeling, going there and knowing that I'm going to be able to find something or something that I need, or there's someone there who can help me find it. and get that for me. And that, yeah, no matter where you are in your life or what stage you're in, whether you are a really young kid or you're a parent of a young kid or you're a person looking for a new job or someone who is retired and looking for that sense of community, there's all different walks of life and all types of people are at the library and can find a place there and feel included. I think that's just wonderful.
And Jenna, how about you?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Rhiannon said, that accessibility and inclusivity. I used to love going there with my kids. We'd each have a bag and just, not worrying about how much it costs. And just kind of loading up what's of interest to you, exposure to so many different things, whether it's resources or a class. So yeah, that accessibility piece is huge for me and why I love libraries.
As a school librarian, I can tell you from Jenna's perspective, my love of libraries started in high school, and my high school librarian was the reason I became a librarian. So hats off to all the school librarians. That is a tough job. So before coming to TLC, we all know how long you've been here now. How long did you work in libraries? Let's start with Ebony.
So I have I say my lifelong love of libraries, right? And I can truly say that I was 5 years old when I was sitting on my aunt's lap at the Athmar Public Library, which is a branch of the Denver Public Library. I was born and raised in Denver. And she was a clerk and a shelver. And I remember sitting on her lap and checking out books. And I loved the scanner and I scanned the barcodes and I loved the beeps. And that was the beginning, right? And I would go with her to the Athmar Public Library. I would go to the Westwood branch. Those were my local libraries. And I would spend time there in the library while she worked. Beyond after that, when as she moved through the library system, I went with her. So we went to Bear Valley Public Library next, which is another Denver Public Library branch, where she was a circulation clerk, and I would spend almost every Saturday at the library, and my job was to staple the courier slips together. So I would spend my mornings, we would go in, she'd be doing her job, I'd be doing mine, and I would be rubber banding courier slips, staple, and I would create boxes and boxes of them for the libraries. And then I'd take my break and I'd go read my favorite book. Blueberry, what was it? I can't remember. Blueberry Ink was my favorite book to read on Saturdays at Bear Valley Public Library, sitting in the children's section, and just, taking my break, going back to work. So when she went to work, I went to work. After that, in middle school, while all of the other kids were taking home ec and wood shop, I was a library employee. That was my class. So I got to check out materials, return materials, splice film. Who does that anymore? Nobody anymore. But I got to splice film and learned all of these things. And that was, again, my job was in the library. So I continued that. As I grew older, again, followed my aunt around to now Central Public Library downtown, again, Denver Public Library, and she was now an interlibrary loan. And not only did I work on weekends, but I would also work during the summer where there was a Denver Youth program where you could sign up and become an employee at various places throughout the Denver city and county. And one was the library, and they would request me and I would go in. And as a teenager in high school working summers, I was fully getting paid and doing the work of an interlibrary loan clerk. We were doing lending. So I would do all of the wrapping of materials, placing holds, checking material out, sending them on through our courier system here in Colorado. So all of that through all of my high school year. I went away to school, to college. And when I came back, right back into libraries. So again, it was where I was supposed to be. Again, a little bit of following, but I became a circulation clerk. I would go to all of the different branches throughout the city, again, for Denver Public Library. Working as a shelver and a circulation clerk, depending on where you are. You know, some of the bigger branches, like Central, it was very isolated. You worked the circulation desk, and in some, you did all of the jobs, right? So you were the reference librarian at Decker Public Library. You were the shelver. You were the circulation clerk. You know, in some cases, you might have been security. So I had to do all of those different jobs overall at different branches throughout the system. And then finally, I landed up as a circulation clerk at the Central Library. So I kind of stayed there. And as they were doing some reorganization, as a senior library clerk, I moved down to the processing and cataloging department, and I fell in love. I fell in love with cataloging. I fell in love with processing. I fell in love with everything about it. And I said, you know what? This is what I want to do forever. And it was just like I found my home within the library. I still love all of the other departments and everything that our libraries have to offer and what libraries bring to our communities, but cataloging will always have my heart. After about 6 years, I was poached away from the, from the library by a friend who had worked previously at Denver Public Library and had moved to the vendor side. And she said, hey, do you want to come try this out? Give it a try. So I never expected to be working at a software company at all. I did expect to be in libraries for the rest of my life, but now I get to help libraries in a different way, and it brings a lot of joy. But I still do miss walking into my library, sitting there reading Blueberry Ink.
I think we all can, we can all mirror that sentiment. As we probably none of us probably expected to move to become vendor librarians. Ria, how about you?
Yeah, so just in this last couple years, my tenure as a vendor surpassed my time in libraries. So I've been with TLC 9 years. Before that, I was in public libraries for 6 years. I did 2 years in academic libraries during college. And similar to Ebony, I also, when I was a teen, was a student assistant at the library at my school. And that was probably the start of my librarian career as well. My school librarians, we had two of them. And one year for Halloween, they dressed up as me and my best friend because we were in the library all the time. So they dressed up as us for Halloween, and that just kind of solidified like, yes, I love libraries, I love librarians, this is what I want to do forever. And also, I didn't know this at the time. When you're a teenager, you don't really think about the library software or the vendors who supply that software. For me, it was just the library. I was looking up books in the library system, or I was checking out student cards using the library software. And it wasn't until a couple years into my TLC career that I realized we were actually using Library.Solution for schools when I was a student worker. So it was a full circle moment for me at the time.
Jenna.
Love that, Ria. So cool. So I had been in libraries. I started substituting in the library when I was in grad school. So a little bit later than everybody. And I taught everyone from preschool all the way through high school. And talking about vendors and art in the library system is so important because as a school librarian, it's what you teach, it's how you get everybody up to speed and how they can find things and foster that independence in the library. So it's really important to have a good system.
Absolutely. This kind of feeds into our next question about your experiences as librarians and library staff. Um, what were some of the most rewarding experiences that you've had? I'd love to start. Um, uh, I would love to start with Jenna again.
Sure. So my best story that I love that I often reflect on is it was sort of the tail end of COVID. So we had a crazy year. It was the end of the school year. I was in teaching middle school. Um, so our beginning of our year was sort of rocky where we were in some days and home some days and all of that. So it's finals week. I've got a group of eighth graders. That really, we had like a core group that would come in during lunch. They didn't want to go to the cafeteria, they didn't want to go outside. So a group of them came in and brought their friends too. So we had an extra large group. They said, Mrs. Thorne, we want to do Dance Dance Revolution. Can we put it on the big screen? We had the big board. So we pushed all the tables and chairs aside, and about 28th graders were dancing to Dance Dance Revolution for the entire time. And it was just like so awesome to watch them feel comfortable in the space. Like it just really reaffirmed for me that they felt seen there, they felt welcome there, they felt comfortable there. They just like let it loose, and they deserved it because it was such a hard year. And so no books involved, just space and that feeling of home and feeling comfortable. So that's a story I cherish.
That's so great. Ria, do you have anything, any experiences that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so similar to Jenna's experience with having people feel at home. So coming more from the public library perspective, we offered so many services for everybody. We had, the grandparents coming in with their e-readers for the first time, learning how to download books. We had the teens that would come in just looking for a place after school, and we had a whole area for them to play games and hang out. And so we had a wide array of people, and for me that has been the most rewarding, is being able to provide services for so many different people. We also had a number of regulars that would come in all the time. We had both at the public library and at my academic library, which was we had government docs, so it was open to the public too, but it had more of that academic focus. And we had a number of unhoused individuals that would come in. We had people from halfway houses that would use the library as a safe space. And I was part of a county that when individuals were released from prison, they would receive a bus pass and they would receive a library card. And so we had a number of people that would come directly to the library and basically learn how to reintegrate with society and make the library their first stop in order to do that. So I had one gentleman who had just finished a 20-year, serving 20 years, and his very first stop was the library, and was looking for resources on how to find housing, how to find jobs, and also didn't know what an iPod was, didn't know what modern technology was. He just didn't have access to that. So that was just one small example of something that's rewarding. But honestly, every single day I showed up at the library, I could feel the impact of what we were doing, both at an individual level, but also as an organization. And just being able to see that on the people's faces every single day was the most rewarding experience.
That's such a great, those are both such great examples of what libraries do beyond just the traditional check in and check out. Is we do transform lives, and it is so great to see every one of our customers and every one of our librarians here have such wonderful stories. And if you want to keep to answer these questions as you go along, please feel free to do so in the chat. I'm loving reading. I'm loving reading everyone's posts. And yes, share with everyone. We have another question for our panel. And what were your biggest challenges in connecting with your community? I can say from my experience, it was really helping our elderly patrons who were on their own for the first time in a long time connect with technology and to find a way to use it to help get new jobs or just to find their people. And it was a really great experience. So I would love to see Rhiannon. What were your challenges in connecting with your community?
Sure. So, I think with like a lot of us librarians and all different facets of librarianship have realized the struggles and the impacts related to COVID and the pandemic, especially. And jumped, I just kind of dove in head first in like professional librarianship right in the middle of COVID and in the pandemic. And and previously, I was working as a children's programmer and a children's librarian at a really small rural two-branch system where I was the only children's librarian. I was one of only two librarians at the entire system, and and I remember there was a lot of uh, difficulty, and I remember feeling a lot of disconnect between myself and the kids I was trying to serve, and the disconnect between the kids and our collections and the events and things like that, having to do digital programs and digital events um, there in the beginning of the pandemic all the way through like 2021. And I also really felt this that disconnect again when also working as a cataloger earlier on, where where our building was totally closed to patrons, and but as we were able to open up more and seeing those kids come back into the library and seeing our regular patrons come in and being able, especially with being able to serve them materials via like drop off and pick up and everything. It was super rewarding, but it was definitely realized the challenges in providing useful, educational, and like enriching uh, programs and content for kids, especially really young kids in a digital environment. It was really tough, but I learned a ton, and it gave me so much appreciation for the especially like teachers and professionals who are doing this, and uh, just like kudos to any of the librarians out there who were having to deal with the digital program, digital services during the pandemic. It was a whole new world for sure, and we have learned a lot through it. So,
I'd like to ask as a follow-up is what was your most successful program that you were able to run during this time as a brand new librarian and during COVID?
yeah, the most successful one, and the one that I think was uh, had a great impact for me too, like in my own professional and in my personal life, was in creating um, these recorded story times for young kids so that they were able to still get that experience of having a person reading a book to them and being able to integrate with craft projects and things like that. We'd have take home bags that they could pick up from the library and things like that. And it was just such a great experience being able to um, use some of my like technology skills and recording videos and editing and things like that to then create something that would be able to help these kids who were feeling really isolated and stuck at home and not able to get that social interaction. And I got a lot of great feedback and great response from parents who were really appreciative of having that resource. And I know that lots of libraries were doing the same thing, but being able to see that from the kids in my community was really special.
And that's a really great legacy that you're leaving behind and an imprint on your community that they can continue to watch these videos, even if they're coming into the library. I love that. Jenna, what about you?
Yeah, I also had to do that, Rhiannon, for I was teaching elementary during like the beginning of COVID, and so yeah, I had to do weekly lessons, and so I remember fondly, and then not like I remember thinking, oh, this is not going to be taking me too long, and then it was like 5 hours later. You have to get it just right. um, so yeah, love-hate relationship with that, but so that helped me to grow too. But yeah, some of the challenges in connecting with my community as a school librarian, and I think a lot of school librarians have this, is just kind of um, getting into the wider school. community, making sure the library is kind of inserted. It's that it is truly the heart of the school. And that looks different in different buildings. I've been in buildings where we were down the hall and like in a small little room, and that's kind of the, the way we stayed, despite my best efforts. But in other places, like, and especially I think this happens in middle school and high school, it can be hard to reach the teachers. They're busy. They don't always have time. They don't have to bring their kids to the library. So I found that to be a challenge, but I inserted myself in lots of places like, oh, you're doing this project where you need the kids to do some recordings. We'll send them down. They can use my office. And that we made that the recording studio for lots of English teachers. Once one, had success with it, they all sent their kids down. And then just like in whatever ways I could make the library visible in the community. We partnered with the public library to do like a one book, one read, and had some virtual author visits and things like that. So I loved partnering outside of our school community too, to make sure that we were um, kind of giving some real world exposure to our kids as well. I brought in the public library so they could talk up their summer reading programs and getting virtual library cards if they couldn't make it to the library. Um, but I think you have to be creative for sure to overcome that challenge in schools, and really network and make yourself available. And I personally did other things outside of my position, like I was a coach for Girls on the Run, and I just sort of like made sure I connected the library to whatever I was doing, and I think that helped.
I was not a librarian during COVID. I worked as a vendor, and I cannot imagine the extra pressure that y'all had on your shoulders. And for those who are watching this, I commend you, because it was felt like an impossible job, but you made it look so easy. My library in particular, I was just like, let's do all these virtual programs. Boom. And it happened. It felt like it happened overnight. And there was just an easy way to do it. And I really have to say, I appreciate y'all so much. Our next question is going to jump into the why. Why would the four of you, who clearly have a passion for being in the library, choose to move to a vendor side? And what made you want to work for the library corporation in particular? I'm going to just, Ebony, you want to start?
Yeah, so the journey there was definitely like, this is something I could try, right? It wasn't, I was a little leery, right? I was comfortable in the library. This is what I know. This is what I love. Why would I go to a software company, and a software company, I don't know anything about development. So I wasn't brought in like in the development sense, but more as like customer support and being able to come in as a cataloging kind of subject matter expert. So I was like, that's what kind of drew me, this idea of I'm not doing development, I'm just going in and able to work in more cataloging, right? That was what kind of drew me. And it was like, oh, I love writing, and I love, creating documentation, and I love, doing kind of these types of things. I'm like, that seems something different. I'm going to give it a try. Certainly I didn't expect it to turn into a career. And interestingly, again, I mentioned earlier, I had followed my aunt around, right, from job to job. In this scenario, she followed me. So it was the one time that she followed me rather than me following her. But again, it was this idea of, this is what I can do in my library, right? I can do that here. But it's siloed in this particular place. By going to, in this case, a vendor and giving it a try, I wasn't just helping my library. I was, setting it up, and how can we serve more libraries, more of our customers? How do I take these ideas of what I did in my library to work through some of these things and apply those to other libraries? So it was a challenge, and has continued to be a challenge that I love. overall, because that's what I do now, is not just how do I serve, how do I look at these workflows that that every level of librarians deal with, and library workers, and what they do every day, and how do we make that experience better. So
I love that. Rhiannon, how about you?
Yeah, my reasoning is very similar to Ebony's. I think coming from the tech services cataloging side, we're always interested in that, finding the best workflow. And I've always been really interested in finding like automations and ways to streamline my work when working in cataloging and tech services. And I've always been really interested in software um, and that more like technical side and the problem solving part of the thing that I love so much about working with data and working with libraries in particular was I was able to use that a little bit more once I moved into cataloging, but I really wanted to be able to do that. And so much of working in cataloging and in tech services is about making the the materials and the things that you have in your collection more easily available, like searchable and discoverable by your patrons or your students or your customers. And being able to take a lot of the skills and experience I learned working in a library and being able to, like Ebony said, broaden that out and be able to help a wider range of libraries and be able to show them different tips and tricks and be able to uh, use my expertise in cataloging and find better ways to do that within our own software has been so rewarding. And it's been a great 2 years working here at TLC. I know there'll be many more to come. So it's been a great transition moving from a public library space into the vendor space, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
And we have absolutely loved having you. Ria, how about you?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was working in public libraries, I felt that impact every single day, like I said earlier, and it was hard to make that transition from being a librarian, a front-facing person in the community, to going to the vendor side. And I think it can be very difficult to grow in libraries because so many times librarians love their jobs. They hold on to them forever. It's sometimes hard to move up in library land. So I had been looking for a couple of other library positions when I saw a job posting from TLC. And it came out, I think, a couple of weeks before PLA that year. Public Library Association's conference was in my hometown 9 years ago, I guess now. And I was already planning on going to that, but I didn't really know who TLC was at the time. So I stopped by the booth just to find out, who this company is, what's going on, what this job is, and ended up meeting the director of product at the time. And she did actually interview me later that day at the conference too. But while I was in the booth, she showed me some of the really cool things that they were working on, which was at the time. It showed me predictive search in the pack, which she said we had before Google invented, which I thought was the coolest thing in the world. I started as a page in my library career, and every single time we would do hold slips, it was 20, 30, 40 pages twice a day to go out and grab those holds. And she was working on the time on creating the tablet version of what we have, Carl Connect, where you can take your tablet out into the stacks and you can check in books. And I was just so mind blown that there was this company out there that was already solving the problems that I was experiencing as a librarian. And so that made the transition a little bit easier for me going from library to vendor, because I could have like a higher ripple effect. Rather than me having that direct impact in my community, I could help the people that were helping their communities and reach way more libraries across the country. And that was such a perfect fit. And, spoiler, challenge worked out all right. I am still here today. So it was really transformative.
And how about Jenna?
Yeah, so I moved from New York to North Carolina, so I was looking for a little bit of a change. And I think what I really love about being in product, especially, is how I can be the face of the customer. I can make sure that I'm representing their needs. I've been there, at least for schools. I feel like on the public side, I'm always the customer. Like I know the customer's feeling, the patron's feeling, no, our customers. So yeah, I really love being able to kind of connect with our customers in that way, and hear their pain points, their successes, how can I help them, like you said, Rhiannon, make their workflows better, improve their day. I know, especially at the elementary level, you have no time, your head's spinning as you go through classes. And so I think that's part of what I love too, is that I get that time to actually process and think through all of the different pieces. And best scenarios, and how to help our customers the most. I always, in well, really every job that I had as a school librarian, we were like a technology integrator, a technology leader in our buildings. And so I've always loved technology and learning new things and playing around with things. So I have certainly, it has stretched that a lot at TLC. I have learned way more than I expected to about all the back end things and all the developer speak. So it's a lot of fun.
I think we've all learned some developer speak. It's just no matter where you are at TLC, and even what you bring from that experience in libraries, in the library, how librarians, as librarians, we talked and we thought and we worked through problems, and that relates to my next question about how that library experience all of the exciting things that you did, and all of what I can totally relate to at every level of everyone's job. How does that help you build community with customers here at TLC? We have a lot of librarians on staff, and every one of us does something different. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you and your positions and your areas of the company have helped to foster community with our customers. So, Jenna, you just keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so with our school customers we do a monthly roundtable, and I love that. I love that kind of touchstone every month with them of what's going on in your world, share with me what you're struggling with. I'm thinking of this new thing. What's your opinion on it? And I think having that experience in the library, doing exactly what they've done. Although I do try not to rely on like I know exactly what, because every school's different, and it's been a couple of years since I've been in school, so certainly they have different challenges and things like that. But I think just I have an awareness of what your day to day looks like. So talk me through what's happening here, and tell me what we can do to make the product better as we go along. So I've also done some on-site visits with customers, and the same thing. I love getting that one-on-one time with customers to see exactly how they're using the product, and what's coming up for them, and again how we can make it better, how we can offer tips and tricks. So I think that having the experience I've had has definitely helped me to connect with our customers.
And it sounds like it's also that authority. You are within the company an expert, that you advocate for your communities, for our customers, for our school customers in particular, for your specialty, and bring that back to development to say, well, this is how we think as school librarians. This is how we would work. And that's one of the most wonderful things about my position in marketing, is that I am an advocate to the company at large for what we hear and what we talk to librarians about as the needs that are not being met elsewhere. And I know, Ebony, you have some experiences you'd like to talk about as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, definitely. And I really love this idea of being an advocate, because as a librarian and coming into a software development, right, I had to learn a lot of things about the software development side. Sure, I know the library side, but the software development side was newer to me, as you've heard us kind of say. So you learn that lingo, you understand that, but then it really, you start understanding that and saying, okay, how do I best serve the customers that I'm now kind of the face of, right? Because I need to talk to developers and be the voice of the customer. So I spend a lot of time with Jenna and with Rhiannon and with Ria and with Ash and the rest of our team who are many librarians throughout the company, having those focus groups, those on-site visits, our annual users conference where we're chatting and talking with our customers about their day-to-day. What are your pain points? What are you trying to do? What, what would make it better? We all have our own assumptions. We all, like, in general, because we've worked in libraries, because I've worked in libraries, I can think like, I remember doing this. I remember, to Ria's point, being the one out in the stacks, pulling the holds off of the shelves and papers upon papers upon papers. I remember how, what I'm looking for when I'm at a circ desk checking out and there's a line of 50 people and the internet goes out, and what do I need offline circ to do? I remember, those types of things, those experiences come into what my job is today. Right. And it helps me to say, okay, I can think, here's the problem, here's the pain point, here is the assumption of how we can fix this, but it gives me the opportunity, because I've built those relationships with our customers, to validate those assumptions, to send surveys, to get on a call, to have a discussion, to talk to our customers, to say, here is the, validate what I'm thinking would help, right? And what doesn't work, what does work, let us, go this route and give feedback right away so we can improve upon it. I mean, that's what my job is on the day to day. Like, okay, how do we continue having those conversations? And I have been, I was a Carl Solution customer before I was a TLC employee. So I had already had an established Carl community. As I moved to working at TLC, that community became different, right? Yes, I'm on the vendor side, but those relationships still exist, and we've been able to build new relationships and improved relationships. I don't just see those are our customers and they're the people who I chat with every day, right? They're the people who I'm on monthly calls with, the people who I say, you know what? Yeah, we're running into a problem. Is it a development, a software problem? Is it a workflow problem? You know what? Let's jump on a call. Let's pull in Rhiannon. Let's pull in Kim. Let's pull in Jessica. Let's pull in some of my staff. Let's talk through this. And yes, yeah, we could make a software change, but what about, let's talk about your workflow. Let's, see how can we make the system work for you, whether that is improving the software, making a software change, or, working through that workflow. And that is one of my favorite parts about working at TLC, and what I am reminded almost every year after our annual users conference is just, no matter how much work it is, the value and what I get coming out of that. Because it just builds up this, I work with amazing people at TLC, and I work for amazing librarians who are just looking to serve their communities. And anything that I can do to make that easier makes me happy, because I want them to be happy, right? I want to produce software that they're excited about, because I know what it means on the front end, that they have so much to do. And if I make their job easier, I've done my job. If I make them happy, I'm happy. So there's just so much about that I just love every single day. And it always hits home after TLCU that I'm just like, all of my feelings are like, I love you, libraries.
I think everyone here feels that love. And I was an IT manager for a very long time in my library, and that is a very different experience in how we communicate with and open up with and have personal conversations with our librarians it's very different from other vendors that I've experienced. I feel like that is the reason I chose to move to TLC was I get to be part of a community that believes in libraries, and we don't just sell software. We believe in what we sell, and we believe in what we do. So the last question I have, and this is for everyone, so I'm going to pick on everyone here. What are your hopes for the future of libraries? This could be a loaded question, but I would love to hear from everyone on the panel and in the chat, please, as well. I'd love to hear what your hopes are for the future of libraries. And I would like to start with Ria.
Yeah, libraries are essential. We use that in our marketing. We use it all over the place, but we believe it. Libraries are essential. And my hope for the future is that people see that they're not only essential, but also the answer to a lot of the things that we're going through right now. With digital media literacy, your librarian can help you figure out what's true and what's not true. Um, Even with all the subscriptions now, Netflix, Hulu, etc., you can go to your library and get free subscriptions to a lot of streaming services. So, big or small, I feel like libraries are the answer to a lot of that. And there's very few places where you can get so much for so little. So, my hope is that they remain sacred places.
Rhiannon.
Yeah, I hope that libraries can continue to thrive and be this sort of beacon of hope and of community for all the people that they serve. And more specifically in the world of cataloging, I really hope that libraries can continue to, adapt and embrace the changing world of how we handle all the complex things like metadata and through new technologies and new ways of thinking about how we structure that data through things like linked data. There are so many really exciting developments and changes being made in this field every year. If not every month, there's something new and exciting that other libraries around the world are doing and other institutions are doing. And I can't wait to see how that's going to have like a real measurable impact for the search and discovery of library materials for patrons and students and customers. And so I'm really excited about the role that TLC has in that. And I'm really excited to see how cataloging and linked data will continue to evolve in the future.
Same. Jenna.
Yeah, same, definitely. Yeah, I think my biggest hope is that libraries remain accessible and inclusive for all, and that they're able to continue to grow and evolve and change, like you said, with the technologies, and provide these open spaces that all of our communities so desperately need.
Absolutely. Ebony, would you want to round us out?
Mine are all little pieces of what my amazing colleagues have said today. I think the big thing for me is I want the next generation to continue to be, I want to build the next generations of lovers of libraries, right? Like as a librarian and a parent, my most exciting moment was going in and working with my daughter to get a library card, but not just that, but let's go to the pack and let's place a hold. I need you to do it. And when she did that, I literally was like tears in my eyes because that's what it is, right? I was brought up with this idea that libraries are this space that just offers so much. And I really, really hope that libraries continue to have the funding and the access to be able to provide that, right? In our everyday lives in crazy times, it's kind of, what we deal with every day, and we want our customers to be able to come to us and say, how help us deal with the things that we can't control with things that we can control. So overall, that's kind of where I am. And yeah.
Thank you. Um, I'll answer too. I think my biggest hope for libraries is to be there for the kids like me who felt like they had nowhere else to go. but to walk through 2 cornfields behind their house to get to the library, like I had to, and have the experience of being in a space where you can learn anything you want and access information. And that is one of those core tenets at TLC that we hold dear, is top to bottom, we support libraries and access. And it's an important thing to say for everyone, that we support you and we hear you and we always want to talk to you, which is why I am just going to launch a quick poll, um, and ask if you'd like any more information on TLC. Please let us know. The Library Corporation is always happy to meet new friends and learn more about you and what you're interested in. So thank you so much. And to round all of this out, I do want to let you know that the recording for this webinar will be available on our website in the next few days. And if you're interested in future webinars that we'll be holding, you can visit tlcdelivers.com/webinars and see what's coming up and register for the next webinars that we're hosting. Thank you again, everyone. And I hope that you all have a lovely evening, afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. And that if you're getting snow, please stay warm. Jenna, Rhiannon, Ria, Ebony, thank you so much for joining us today. And have a good afternoon, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.